Okay, I make that 1 o'clock at my end. So welcome to today's webinar. My name is Michael Fox, and I'm the Iris specialist for our hosting offering. Excuse me. Um, if I am suddenly screaming at loud volume outside of your computer or laptop, then feel free to dial the number on screen. And then you need to put the access code in and then press the hash key at the end of it. If you do experience any problems during the broadcast, you can use the chat box, which I've just shouted the word chat box into. So it will be popping up on your screen. You can use that to send me any messages. There is also a Q&A box if you'd like to send anything privately. But I'll also be putting my email up at the end of the webinar and also here at the beginning as well. If I can find that arrow to do it. There we go. So today's webinar is called Are You Managing Your Own Servers in-house? It's an open-ended question, but I suppose with only two answers. Either you are or you aren't, or maybe you don't have any at all as a third option. So my email's on there, my mobile number as well, so I'll be able to take any longer questions that you might have after the session as well, but I'll be putting that up later as well. So you may have already gone through the process of getting a server, and you may have been quite recent. It might have just been last year, might have been a couple of years ago, and perhaps you were involved. I'm going to assume that most of you are on a server, not strictly, just individuals. But don't worry, we can work with individuals, or just one or two people as well. At some point, a server was the way to do it. All your data needs to be one place and shared with all of your staff. And that is still the way for many people. But at some point, you're going to want to do more or be forced to think about getting something that can do all of this a little bit better. All your programs are obviously going to become server applications at some point. You would have might been using Iris perhaps back in the day, and it wasn't even a server-based application. But things become resource heavy as well, so you need to rely on a server to do some of the grunt work, and then the client PC to do some of it as well. Maybe you want to share hardware, scanners and printers between everyone as well. You might have had an ad hoc network. You might have had a PC that acted as the server. You might still do that now. But usually, practices will get to a point where they outgrow that setup. With all the digital things that we want to do these days and all the ambitions to go paperless and all the other things like that, it might be that you just got sick of maybe one person being able to scan things, having to email yourself things, or using mobile phones to take pictures of things. A server was once the only way to achieve all of this, but a hosting system, which is essentially a server managed by us to a really high specification and with loads of extra security features on top, is another way. So if you remember moving to a server, then there was probably downtime. With moving to a hosted system, this is super minimal because we do it all overnight, and it's project managed and guaranteed by us. So you might be coming across at the moment, this might be the reason that you're watching this webinar today, some of these typical traditional IT issues. So I'm going to throw some of these up here and talk about them, and obviously we're going to have solutions to these as well. So typically, practices come to us asking because they're having one or more of these issues. You may have already started looking for hardware replacements, for the PCs that you're on, maybe looking at new versions of Windows, the upgrade path that you can get to, be able to get new things working, working out how all that will work with the server, how the hardware and software is going to be compatible. It starts to become quite a big project to get right. So likely, an IT professional is involved, but not usually do they have experience perhaps in the software that you as accountants are using day to day. Maybe they support one or two, so they'll know that Iris exists, and perhaps they know that it needs an SQL license, but they will be also supporting different types of customer. They may not understand how many versions of Sage you need to have and need to keep, for example. So that's, all of this kind of incurs one-off upfront large costs. And then when you've gone through all of that and you've bought that kit, you don't always get your money's worth. Your software will very quickly outgrow what it's running on. It may have given up before then. And that hardware, it's even harder to predict. And that could leave you very quickly without a way to work. when you're actually using something in-house and it's your own, you need in-house expertise, which can be a drain on your working resources, an actual billable hours, or you have an external person, again, just a monetary drain, perhaps with a promise of a 24-hour response time. That might, feel really good, but maybe that's just to get on site. And what if another accountant they work with has problems in January before you do? Does that move to 48? If they're kind of maxed out, is that what you want to be working to? And even then, if it is a full failure, how long do you have until you can actually get back up and running? So even when the environment is all running smoothly, you can have problems with software itself. So just making sure that you have the latest security updates from Windows and updates from other essential programs can be a really big job, and it's going to be something that someone's going to have to just getting a question there. Apparently my volume delivery is uneven. I'm just going to see if there's some settings. And so that will not do it anymore, and that will stay the same as I go through. So I was saying about security updates, and all of these programs might be someone's responsibility to make sure they're updated. And if they do that, that's going to be taking time out again for them, which is not really something that you want to be doing. Even something simple like virus protection isn't something that you want to be without any time, or something you want to forget about. And when we do audits on customers, we do find that backups, from Iris and other programs haven't been running. And that's quite a worry for practices that don't really realize that although they're taking backups, that they're not actually going to work, or that they're not happening at all. That leads us on to thinking about perhaps the worst thing that could happen, a loss or corruption of data. There are always new and interesting and kind of deliberate ways for people to access and destroy and kind of hold to ransom your business data. So to protect and plan for that sort of thing is something we're doing all the time, and it is a very big job for a business to take on itself. And the final one is something that more and more customers are asking about all the time, and it's something that a lot of people are already doing often. There are services like LogMeIn, and there's other bits in Windows that you can use to log on to your system from elsewhere. But so long as it's on, and so long as your security settings allow it, and it's not as patchy as it has been described, then you can do that. But with remote working, as you can imagine, our hosting solution is going to cover up all these things. The first one being, it's a scalable solution. We do, as you can imagine, have kind of solutions to all this. You just add the users as you go. Instead of a large upfront cost, we work on a subscription model. So if you need extra users on the system, you'll know how much that will cost. You're not going to have an extra staff member, reducing the abilities of your server and actually maybe slowing down how long the port's going to take. In comparison, an IP professional who might maybe price up a new server, we are used to dealing with the accounting packages you'll be using and understand them. If someone's saying they can hear music at the same time, there's definitely not music playing this end. So it may be yourself, Jason. If anyone else can hear music, do let me know. I'm not sure if anyone else is unmuted. It is meant to be that everyone is muted on the line, so I don't think that's me, Jason. Sorry about that. So next point. We do make sure that the solution is powerful enough. We do tests all the time. We make sure that as your business needs increase, as you add new software, we don't increase your costs, but we do make sure that we increase the power of the system. Every new user is going to have an email account set up. Every new user is going to have access to the programs that you want them to have access to as well. And this completely reduces your need for on-site support. If you do have any issues with the environment, perhaps you can't scan or print suddenly from a certain program, this happens. Updates happen. Printers go out of whack. Drivers fail. Windows updates affect things. We're on hand. And we're actually already on site next to your server, and we will make sure that it gets back and running again. So problems do occur, and that's why we offer that 24/7 support. We did say 24/7 in the literature for the email today. I do want to make it clear it's 364 rather than 365, so we do get Christmas Day off for the team, but 24/7 is 24/7, and it's the same team. We don't hand it off to someone else. You might be perhaps dialing in from home for the first time, and it's obviously after hours, and you need help from there. Might be a new Apple laptop, tablet. They're a really good team, and they really know what they're doing, so they'll be able to help you, no problem. So that version control goes out the window as well. All users are going to be in the same version of Windows, on the same version of Office 365, which is what we provide. All those upgrades are carried out on your behalf, out of hours. We make sure your firewalls are okay. The security, virus software is all up to date. We also update Iris, Sage programs as well. And as I said, we schedule them out of hours so it works around you. And if you want multiple versions of Sage, you can have as many as you like, because you're still going to have those clients who won't update their end, and we are aware that you just need to keep it your end. Because we work with accountants, we know what software it is that you use. So I said, as before, that the fear of the unknown is gone a little. Our servers are built on levels of security reserved for the banks and other things like that, not TSB, I would say. You are protected from accidents, like local damage to equipment, fire, flood, electrical, kind of surges, because your data is already backed up and it's off the site of where it's originally kept. If something was done internally, and perhaps it was a mistake, maybe you deleted the wrong John Smith, folder, then we'll be able to restore to that previous backup and go and pull those files for you. So it really reduces that kind of human error protection. And if you did, have something obtrusive try to attack you, we're built in to stop that as well. And again, remote working is built in by default. You're always remote working. So wherever you've got an internet connection, you'll be able to access your business data. And if you want to reduce that ability, and you don't want people to have access from home, that's fine too. We can make it so only the directors can do it, or only certain members of staff can access from elsewhere. And actually, you lock it down so that only people that need to work in the office all the time can access from the office. And people also say it's not virus that we use, and that's a common maybe misconception. Perhaps it's our, how we describe it. But we can host any of the applications that you currently have on your server that you're sitting in front of. And it doesn't matter how many. It's the same fixed ongoing cost. So if you decide down the line to go and get a big, document management system from us or anyone else, then that doesn't bother us. That's fine. You can add that in there. We'll make sure that it keeps up with anything that you throw at it. Other hosting offerings are out there, but they're not accountancy focused. So busy season, we're going to have coverage. When updates come out, we know that they're coming out for Iris, and we install them at a time to suit, again, out of hours. As with any kind of update as well, we'll know if there's problems with it. So occasionally a software update will come out and it has knock-on effects to other things. So we can let you know maybe things that other customers have experienced that maybe went through it first. They said, oh, actually, we don't like that. It's messed up this payroll. Can you roll it back? Yeah, no worries. You roll it back to the backup that was taken before we did the update, and they carry on. And we wait until a hot fix is released for that, and we can let everyone else know on that line as well when they should be doing it. So our service is fairly priced and doesn't have lots of incremental extras. We simply don't have a price or a line item for more RAM or CPU, only storage. And from the kind of deals that we do, there isn't massive, it's not a massive cost for Earth storage. And if I look at quotes from other providers, they really do seem to overprice the storage that is out there. So I think we're very competitively priced in terms of add-ons that you might want. So how do you get there? How do you move from what you're on at the moment to a service whereby we are managing your internal IT? So I like to describe it not as a kind of Ryanair service, but it is really like flying BA. So we're really going to take you through this process, make sure there's no technical expertise needed from you, and get you to a place that you're going to really appreciate the work that we do. So first thing we do is we look at your current system. We make sure that there's no software that isn't compatible. That's not usually the case. It's usually fine that we find everything. Often practices, as I said, have many versions of Sage. This is fine as well, but it just lets us know how much work there is to do and how long it'll take us to get ready and build it and create a copy of your system, how long it'll take to move all your data from where it is to where it needs to be, and we'll take a look at obviously your internet connection at the time there, and also how long it will take us to test. So if you've got more users, it's going to take longer for us to test that everything's working. We also take a look at your local hardware. Really old printers, for instance, might need some extra tweaking to get working, but usually things work absolutely fine in terms of the kind of testing, and it's just making sure that you understand how to access the system for then when you go live, really, you've already been using the system for a week or so in the testing period before that. So as I said, we make sure that your line speed is up to scratch. We give you the full implementation cost, and so you can understand how much it's actually going to cost to bring you across to our system. And then, once you get the contract signed, we actually can install this backup software and start moving everything across. Current availability will be let known to you, and you can put in a go-live date and start to work around and get everyone understanding that this is what you're going to be moving to. We let you know when we're going to move your emails across as well, because that's part of the cost and part of the service. We move you to Microsoft Office 365, but it's obviously makes sense to get that backup going on all the time, and the build kind of goes on. And lead time is usually about 8 weeks, and that sometimes I have to monitor that, but yeah, from about now, that's about right. Yeah. So every night we get another backup, and during the testing, you'll be testing the data from the day before, and there's essentially then you making sure that everything is how you like it. This is the point where usually people go, wow, Iris can actually run a lot faster, and we've just not been maybe making the best use of it. So people start to then look forward to that, and that's actually us spending time on the phone with you. Now, the day before you go live, we ask you to stop work at about 4 p.m. This gives us that final hour to make sure that we've got everything we need, make sure everyone's logged out, isn't making any more changes, and we've got all night to get a full backup of all of your data, and you go live usually about 10 a.m. the next day. So the total downtime is about 2 hours. So if you compare that to what you'd have to do with a different server, you've got to unplug, you've got to do it. Maybe they do it overnight, but usually people would be looking at some longer downtime than 2 hours. And what do you need? What do you need to keep at your end? A basic PC or laptop. You're going to need that, even a Mac if you like. If you want to work from home, tablets are fine as well. But Windows machines come with a remote desktop connection built in. Any of those other devices have apps that you can download for free. It's a very small, thing built by Apple, so it's kind of secure. And then you need a suitable broadband connection. If you've got fiber, it's usually absolutely fine, and we don't really need to test it. But we're coming across less and less businesses that can't go for this because of broadband. That used to be a problem about 2 years ago. We used to have to kind of get fixed lines in, and people would be looking at getting an extra line or a bonded line just for this. It really is happening so infrequently now. So you might already be in this position, and a lot of people are. So if you are, that might give you some questions, and might be you saying, well, I really want to go ahead with this now. But I did want to do a slight comparison as to kind of on-premise IT versus Iris hosting. So these are all things that could happen. And if you think back to the last time you had any of these, perhaps a power outage, this is me kind of picking some numbers as the average ability that we would be able to fix. So for a power outage, maybe you've got 24 hours, plus your non-saved work that you might have been doing up until that point. So sometimes it comes on very quickly, but sometimes it can take a while. Now, if you're on laptops, you could probably carry on if you'd saved that file, if you're just working on Excel files or something like that. But if you can't access the server, you can't really access Iris and the rest of your programs. With hosting, you've got power redundancy. So at your end, if the power goes out, you can go home, you can turn your computer on, and you can go. You can carry on because you just need to reconnect, and the system will be sitting there just waiting for you to reconnect. Whatever you were halfway through doing, you were halfway through an email, that email's still half written, and you're there ready to carry on. And we've got power redundancy at our end as well. So there's kind of failovers if there was a power cut in that area. We've got diesel backup generators that kick in. So really, we're not going to be affected by power outages. An internet outage, again, same thing, 24 hours, maybe. for it to get fixed, maybe less. But you're also then coming across the not answered email that isn't flowing through your email server on premise. You're kind of out of luck. It's bouncing. Maybe phones are ringing still, but you can't help. You put the answering machine on. If it's past 3 p.m., you probably do go home anyway. Whatever spreadsheet work that you were doing, again, locally, you can save and maybe put that back on as well. So an issue at 6 p.m., January 29th. 14 hours, because you're going to get that fixed. Whoever is your IT, they're going to turn up. Plus missed returns, things like that. Some sort of issue with us, we've got 24/7 support, and we're going to have high coverage at that time as well. We know that if a printer stops working, you're going to want to have that fixed very, very quickly. Sort of upgrade required. Maybe this is an upgrade required for CPU or RAM. Perhaps the newest version of Windows is really, resource hungry. We can do that. We're monitoring your system, and we'll probably recognize that about the same time you do. So we can see peaks and spikes of your resources. So that's kind of the way that we kind of keep on top of that. If your security is compromised, we're always there on the phone, backing up your system every night as well, and that backup is sent elsewhere. So if something goes wrong, we can always, if the worst comes to the worst, and they actually somehow get into your system, and someone puts their password into something they shouldn't have, and it gives access to your system, and they get something in there, then the worst that could happen is that we wipe that and we go back, and we could probably get you going again in about 4 hours from a kind of completely dropped out system there. We don't come across other security issues very often because of the virus software and the levels of firewall and the kind of email system that we use. That's very, very rare. Whereas we hear lots of people that actually go with hosting have had ransomware attacks more and more. If you look at the figures out there, it's actually quite astounding how many practices have been hit with one in the last 12 months. And this last one, this get it wrong fallout. So if they do get it wrong, if anything goes bad, your IT provider might say, well, we've got lots of other customers, and if we drop this one, we can pick up another. With ourselves, we've definitely got an incentive to get this right for you. If you, didn't want to continue with our IT, you might have second thoughts about our software as well. So it's really on our necks and on our shoulders to make sure that we do get this right for you. So the things that we offer in terms of Office is Microsoft Office 365. It's the Enterprise 3 version. If you wanted to kind of look up, or if you're on a version at the moment, you can move to us for your billing and take advantage of our telephone support, which you just don't get from Microsoft. They just don't offer telephone support. So we can talk you through using all of these programs. You'll get support on these. They're all accessible via a browser. Maybe you won't use that so much, but the license that we give you also allows you to use it on your mobile. You can have it on 5 devices per user, so you can install it at home as well. And the integration with all these programs and Windows is really strong as well. So perhaps you aren't ready to go hosted. This is a point that people bring up to us. It might be that you just invested very heavily in new hardware, or you might have an IT contract that you can't get out of and you don't want to throw that investment away. I can understand that. With the solutions that I'm going to talk about, it's like a halfway house, and these are things that people are doing right now in order to go with hosting a little bit in the future. So ransomware, as I said, I looked at some kind of details and kind of figures on this. And over half of the samples of ransomware that they found, a ticking clock device was used to give some urgency, with deadlines ranging from 10 hours to more than 96 hours. So either of those isn't nice to see. You don't want to be locked out of your system. It's worth noting as well, if you pay, there's no guarantee that that's the end of it and you'll actually be able to get your data back, because it might be that the method that you actually be sending the email to might have been blocked already, might have been reported, and that can be really, really scary as well. If you've got your data locked, they can also threaten to publish that data. So if someone's going to threaten to publish all the kind of financial information of all of your clients, that's definitely not a nice place to be. So what we do offer to combat this is we offer what's called DRaaS, or Disaster Recovery as a Service. So this is a backup that we take every night. It's managed by us, and it means your IRIS data can be retrieved. So what we do is we give you the ability to get up and running on a new system with IRIS installed within 4 hours of you letting us know that your system has been compromised. So if you're interested in that, obviously, do let us know about it, and we can talk to you more and explain how we can get that installed for you. But it's very, very cost effective, and it means as well, if you can't get your local systems fixed, then you can continue using this until you actually do have something that's ready, and we can also then obviously move you to hosting for your IRIS data at least, if you can't ever get that back up and running locally. Excuse me. Now there are some extra security options. Because of GDPR coming in, we are now offering these extra 4 functionalities. As you can see there, email encryption we're offering. Now we do sell Microsoft 365 direct to businesses if you don't want to go hosting. So we can put the email encryption on top of that, along with Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection. Now these are added extras that you can use in a hosting environment as well. So ask me any questions that you'd like to about that. Ask your account manager as well. Dual factor authentication is to give you a little mobile app, so whenever you log into your work PC, it makes sure that it's you. And web content filtering is a little bit about making sure that people don't click on links on the internet that they shouldn't be doing. Now I'm going to be discussing these further later on, because they're kind of add-ons to our system, and it is essentially a full thing in itself. So if you want to join that session, then you can do it this afternoon. I think it's listed on our website, or you can email me for a link to that, and you can learn a lot more about these 4. And the way you'll need to do that is to email me, michael.fox@iris.co.uk, or you can ask your account manager if you haven't got the number for the main, switchboard is there. So I'm just to make sure I haven't got any questions on here. There's one question I think there. Just need to expand this box so I can actually see it. Let me do it. I'll have to scroll. Okay. Question from Bill. My laptop has a high-risk screen and can use RDC, but the quality is poor. Are there any alternatives? So remote desktop connection. Yeah. So if you're remoting into somewhere, and I've got a very similar laptop. I'm staring at a very small laptop screen at the moment. Alternatives are you can carry a big monitor everywhere with you, or you can, if you're using hosting with us, we can adjust the size of the icon and adjust the resolution at this end so it matches and it does work well. It is quite common that if you're just using it straight out of the box, it doesn't look quite well or quite good. But yeah, we can normally get that sorted for you. Question from Noel. I'm a sole practitioner. Would this be viable for me? Yes, Noel. We've got quite a few, single users, 2-user practices. That's no problem at all. So if you get in contact with your account manager, we can give you an idea of what we can do for you. Just make sure. Oh yeah, that's the same question from Bill in the chat box. Okay, so I don't think there's any other questions coming in. So if you do want to email me, go ahead. But other than that, thanks very much.